Under her leadership, Basic Rights Oregon expanded its racial justice work as a founding member of the executive team of One Oregon, an immigrant, refugee, and Muslim justice coalition. Basic Rights Oregon also deepened its commitment to transgender justice by launching Catalyst, a leadership development cohort for transgender and gender nonconforming Oregonians. Prior to joining the staff of Borough, Nancy spent 7 years as the Building Political Power Director at Western State Center, where she led a voter organizing training and empowerment project and managed leadership development programs. Nancy spent 8 years working on economic justice issues with Jobs with Justice and the National AFL-CIO. The daughter of immigrant parents from Bangladesh, Nancy is the first member of her family born in the United States. She grew up in the DC area where she was inspired to becoming politically engaged, joining her first protest as a 4th grader.
Thank you all for being here. This is an amazing crowd. It's really inspiring to see all of you. So as Yaneli said, I'm Nancy Hawk, Executive Director of Basic Rights Oregon. And for those of you who don't know, Basic Rights Oregon is the statewide LGBTQ advocacy organization and a founding member of the One Oregon Coalition. And from our work across the state, we know that Oregonians believe in fairness and looking out for their neighbors. And Measure 105 is contrary to those very basic values of who we are. Measure 105 would throw out Oregon's existing sanctuary law, which has been protecting Oregonians from unfair racial profiling for more than 30 years. Immigrants, including those who may be undocumented, shouldn't have to live in fear of harassment or their families being torn apart when they're simply going to work or reporting a crime. And every day, we hear more stories of longtime residents being sent to a country they don't know, immigrant families being torn apart, ICE raids, children, even babies, being detained in immigration camps. And if this ballot measure passes, local police could be asked to use their personnel, their funds, equipment, and facilities to locate, arrest, and jail people suspected only of violating federal immigration law. We don't want that. No. Getting rid of this law opens the door to serious civil rights violations and more racial profiling of Oregonians, simply because they are perceived to be undocumented immigrants. And throwing out this law could turn our local police into another arm of Trump's deportation force. Not on our watch.
Not on our watch, no.
No. And in our 22 years, Basic Rights Oregon's family knows well what it is to fight for our dignity and our respect and be the target of hate groups. In the 80s and 90s, a group called the Oregon Citizens Alliance, they sought to, boo, hiss, yes. They tried to use ballot measure processes to criminalize the LGBTQ community. And many people took courageous steps to stand up to these hate groups, including PACUN, Oregon's Farm Workers Union. Yes, PACUN. They welcomed our marchers into Woodburn, into their union hall during the legendary Walk for Love and Justice. This was like 25 years ago, before it was popular. And eventually, love won.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And so who's behind Measure 105? The funders are Oregonians for Immigration Reform, OFER, and the Federation of Immigration Reform, FAIR, not a great name for them, because both of these groups have been labeled extremist hate groups by the Southern Poverty Law Center. And we are not going to let hate groups decide who can and who cannot be an Oregonian.
Yes.
So today, we are united. We are united in resistance to these groups as part of Oregonians United Against Profiling, which is the statewide coalition with now more than 100 organizations who are coming together to defeat Measure 105 sure that Oregon's values of fairness and looking out for our neighbors will prevail, and voters will say no to Measure 105 in November. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for walking today. This is just the beginning.
Yes.
¿Se puede?
Sí se puede.
¿Sí se puede?
Sí se puede.
¿Sí se puede?
Sí se puede.
Okay. So our next speaker is Joanne Hardisting. We all love her too. We have awesome speakers today. Let me just read a little bit about Joanne Hardisting. Mostly known for her 1995 through 2001 term as Oregon State Representative, her weekly Thursday morning radio segment on KBOO, and her former role as NAACP Portland President, Joanne is a community leader and activist with a long history of standing for the city's most disadvantaged communities for nearly 30 years. Joanne firmly believes that opportunities to thrive in Portland should not depend on someone's zip code or background.
Let's say it together. No on 105. 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 So this is why I believe you all decided to get out of bed early on a beautiful Saturday morning. Because what I believe brought you here is your values. I believe that you are the Oregonians that are not the solid majority, but are the loud majority that will speak loudly and firmly about us being a welcoming place for all people, regardless of what language they speak, regardless of where they were born, regardless of their education, regardless of who they love. I believe you are the people to make sure that that solid majority that keeps sitting home and scratching their head and wondering what the heck happened to this country, we are the people that are going to let them know, not on our watch, no way, no how. We are going to be no on 105. We're going to make sure that we speak loudly, that everybody is welcome in Oregon. Our Oregon says everyone is welcome, and we will not allow anybody, not Trump, not Oregonians,